We begin, though, this morning with the threat of war looming along the border of Russia and Ukraine.
New U.S. intelligence is giving us an idea of the impact a full-scale invasion could have, not just on the military, but on Ukrainian citizens as well. A U.S. official told NBC News that Russia has already assembled 70% of the forces it would need for an invasion of Ukraine. Here's a look at some of those forces. Satellite images taken over the weekend show Russian troops and air defense systems along the border of Ukraine and Belarus. That U.S. official, who has direct knowledge of the latest government assessment, says if Russia invades Ukraine, up to 50,000 civilians could be hurt or killed within weeks. We have a team in Ukraine this morning. NBC News correspondent Aaron McLaughlin is in the capital of Kyiv, and NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley is in the eastern part of the country. So, Matt, let's start with you and this new assessment from the U.S. Ukraine's defense minister is still saying the risk of an invasion remains low. So why is there this disconnect between the U.S. and Ukraine when it comes to the risk of an invasion?
Yeah, I mean, it's really remarkable, isn't it? I mean, we heard from the U.S. that harrowing details that they announced of just the sheer number of troops and material that are massed all along in a kind of a crescent shape all around Ukraine. And then we heard from Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor. Here's what he had to say.
We believe that the Russians have put in place the capabilities to mount a significant military operation into Ukraine, and we have been working hard to prepare a response. President Biden has rallied our allies. He's reinforced and reassured our partners on the eastern flank. He's provided material support to the Ukrainians, and he's offered the Russians a diplomatic path if that's what they choose instead.
So, you know, here in Kyiv, this is kind of the second largest city in Ukraine. It's sort of the unofficial capital of the Russian-speaking eastern part of the country. I got to tell you guys, nobody here is panicking. From the president of the country on down to your average Joe, everybody seems remarkably at ease. Now, we heard last night from the defense minister of Ukraine, and I want to read you guys some of what he said. This was last night. This was a day after those really, really shocking details were announced by U.S. intelligence. This is from Alexei Reznikov. He said that many different hypothetical estimates and predictions can now be heard, especially in foreign media. That's us, guys. And he said some have even announced an invasion of Russia, which, and again, he's reminding us that 8 years ago, Russia invaded, and we hear this again and again from Ukrainians. There's already been a war. So this is not something that's that surprising to them. And then he ended up by saying the probability of a significant escalation as of today continues to be assessed as low. Really, really massive divide between Washington and Kyiv. Guys?
So, Aaron, that assessment says Kyiv could likely be captured in the early days of an invasion. You've been speaking with people there who say they're actually ready to fight back against the Russians. What did they tell you?
That's right, Joe. Here in Kyiv, they're preparing for the worst. We watched as Saturday morning, hundreds of ordinary people participated in military training, men and women, young and old, learning how to handle weapons, learning how to evacuate the wounded, learning how to administer first aid. We spoke to one woman, a mother of 2 teenage sons. She was there with her boys. She said that she's willing to pick up a weapon to defend her country in the event of a Russian invasion. Take a listen.
Are you scared for your family?
We are all mortals. Come on, we are all going to die someday. And the thing you can do is you can live your life in dignity or not.
When you speak to people here, you can detect this remarkable resilience. That being said, many people that I've been speaking to here in Kyiv say they don't think it will come to this. They're very skeptical that Russia will go so far as to strike the country's capital. That being said, there was an opinion poll conducted in December. Half responded saying that they would be willing to participate in some form of active resistance in the event of a Russian invasion. Joe?
So, Matt, we're hearing from Ukrainians, we're hearing from Ukraine leaders. What is Russia saying about this assessment by the U.S., that Russia has 70% of the troops it needs and 50,000 Ukrainians could be hurt or killed? What are you hearing?
Yeah, well, there was a tweet that responded directly to that. And again, the Russians have taken this posture, sort of alternating between annoyance, mockery, and anger. They really think that a lot of this is being drummed up by the West. And I got to tell you guys, a lot of Ukrainians are faulting the West for what they say is essentially just fear-mongering and sky is falling mentality. But there was a tweet from a government official essentially saying, what if the U.S. Or what if we came out with an assessment saying that the U.S. could attack London? How would that make you guys feel? And it was an interesting way of looking at it, because when we bring out these intelligence assessments, a lot of people think that the intelligence assessments themselves are part of the problem, that it's the sort of panic that's creating the pretext for a war rather than the war itself. Guys.
And Aaron, real quickly, what do Ukrainian officials make of what you were hearing, the growing number of civilians who are actually training for war? Do they think this could be a deterrent?
Well, I was speaking to Ukraine's former defense minister, and he was telling me he believes that it is a critical deterrent. He said he believes that at the end of the day, what the Kremlin wants to do, what Russian President Vladimir Putin wants to do is control Ukraine. And it's very difficult to do that if millions of Ukrainians say they are willing to resist an occupation. 150,000 Russian troops that are currently or will ultimately perhaps be surrounding, according to U.S. Projections, 3 sides of the Ukrainian border might be enough to capture a section or a portion of Ukraine. But he was telling me he does not believe it's enough to hold a section or a city such as Kyiv. And then the question becomes, well, what is the Kremlin's objective? What does the Kremlin accomplish with a potential invasion? It's a question that Ukrainian officials are having a difficult time answering, which is why perhaps we're hearing that they're so skeptical, downplaying this threat. Joe.
Aaron and Matt, both in Ukraine this morning. Thank you both.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.